Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and today we are back with more news and politics from around the world. This is for June the 14th, 2023, which would be Wednesday's news. Anyway, let's jump into this here. First story I've got up just to show how desperate they are to hide anything that could hurt them, how greedy they are. Comcast complains to FCC that listing all of its monthly fees is too hard. How about you get rid of some of the motherfuckers? Comcast blasted for seeking loopholes in rule requiring disclosure of all fees. You should have to disclose all your fucking fees. People should know why they are paying the money in the first place. You asshats. Comcast is not happy about new federal rules that will require it to provide broadband customers with labels displaying exact prices and other information about internet service plans. Oh, boo-hoo, something you should be doing regardless. In a filing last week, Comcast told the FCC that it is working diligently to put in place the system and processes necessary to create, maintain, and display the labels as required. But according to Comcast, two aspects of the FCC's order impose significant administrative burden and unnecessary complexity in complying with the broadband label requirements. Oh, goodness bless your heart, Comcast. Why is the FCC imposing regulations like it's supposed to do? That don't mean anything. They shouldn't impose regulations. Give me a break. Comcast noted that the five major cable and telecom industry trade groups petitioned the FCC in January to change the rules. Comcast's new filing urged the FCC to grant the petition as soon as possible before the rules become effective to help providers streamline and simplify their labeling processes, which will ultimately benefit consumers. Fuck off. They're just doing it so they can hide fees. The less transparent they have to be with their customers, the more easier they can cheat them out of money. But here's a story from The Hill. Biden tops Trump by 4 points in new poll. Now here's the thing. If Trump ends up the Republican nominee, which, I mean, no one right now is close to him, although he may end up running from jail, I think Biden will win. And believe me, Biden is far from a good candidate. Even though he's done a few things that are like, hey, that actually common sense. He could have gone further and done better things. But of course, we know he's a neoliberal, centrist shill. The Quinnipiac University poll found that 48% of respondents would support Biden over Trump, who received 44% of support, while Biden's support is unchanged since the last poll in late May. Trump's support has dropped 2 points. Yeah. Honestly, best choice for Republicans is to keep away from Trump. Honestly. Here's a story from Gallup. Gallup polling. U.S. same-sex marriage support holds at 71% high. And yet, there are so many Republicans. I'm not necessarily talking about your average, everyday Republicans. I'm talking about your talking heads and the people in office. They don't want, same-sex couples to exist. When the Supreme Court struck down Roe v. Wade, Clarence Thomas said they next need to take a look at Dobbs' decision, which I think it was Dobbs v. Connecticut, where the right to like the morning after pill and stuff, and other pills and creams and stuff that deal with sexual activity. Prophylactics. That's the word I'm looking for. And the other one he mentioned is, of course, Obergefell, which says, yeah, same-sex marriage is fine. Because if they turn them down, they can send it to the states like they've tried to do with Roe v. Wade. And you see what pushback has been happening from that little disaster. But yeah. This is from The Guardian. Ukraine urges the G7 to clamp down after Western parts found in Russian missiles. Kyiv says components including microchips supplied for civilian purposes are sent to Russia through countries such as China. So they're wanting the G7, formerly the G8, but they kicked Russia out. Yeah. Ukraine says they're getting parts they need through underhanded means, even if it's, Western parts. So, yeah. Western microchips and other components coming largely via China are being used to manufacture Russian cruise and ballistic missiles that are being launched at Ukraine, Kyiv has said in a presentation prepared for G7 members. So yeah. Next story we're going to look at. This is from Semaphore. Kenya's tea pickers are destroying the machines replacing them. So it's, again, worker versus automation type situation here. Kenyan tea pickers are destroyed machines brought in to replace them during violent protests that highlight the challenge faced by low-skilled workers as more agribusiness companies rely on automation to cut costs. At least 10 tea plucking machines have been torched in multiple flashpoints in the past year, according to local media reports. Recent demonstrations have left one protester dead and several injured, including 23 police officers and farm workers. The Kenya Tea Growers Association estimated the cost of damaged machinery is $1.2 million, or 170 million Kenyan shillings, after the machines belonging to Ekaterra, makers of the top-selling tea brand Lipton, were destroyed in May. So yeah, again, workers not wanting to lose their source of income, but automation being brought in because hey, it's cheaper for us. Here's a story from The Lever. J.D. Vance helped lobbyist weaken his rail safety bill. The Ohio senator quietly delayed the timeline for safer tank cars that regulators say could help prevent train spills like the one in, where else? His state of Ohio, East Palestine, where the serious train derailment happened, what, a month and a half ago? Yeah. The guy is just, he's a lousy human being. You could have helped prevent this. But no, you want that money that lobbyists send you instead of, doing things that would help the average person. Anyway. And here's a story from ProPublica. How Arizona stands between tribes and their water. As it negotiates water rights with tribes, Arizona goes to unique lengths to extract concessions that limit tribes' opportunities for growth and economic development, according to a ProPublica and High Country News investigation. The Dilcon Medical Center, a sprawling $128 million facility on the Navajo Nation in Arizona, was completed a year ago. With an emergency room, pharmacy, and housing for more than 100 staff members, the new hospital was cause for celebration in a community that has to travel long distances for all but the most basic health care. But there hasn't been enough clean water to fill a large tank that stands nearby, so the hospital sits empty. The Navajo Nation has for years been locked in contentious negotiations with the state of Arizona over water. With the tribe's claims not yet settled, the water sources it can access are limited. So yeah, think about this. They're basically devastating the whole tribal community. You would have thought, Native Americans at least are given the right to survive on their own. No. They're still being screwed with. The hospital tried tapping an aquifer, but the water was too salty to use. If it could reach an agreement with the state, the tribe would have other options, perhaps even the nearby Little Colorado River. But instead, the Dilcon Medical Center's grand opening has been postponed and its doors remain closed. So here's a center, a hospital, to help the people of the Navajo Nation reservation. But Arizona's basically telling them, fuck you. You'll have to do a lot before we give you water. It's like, really, guys? Really? For the people of the Navajo Nation, the fight for water rights has real implications. Pipelines, wells, and water tanks for communities, farms, and businesses are delayed or never built. ProPublica and High Country News reviewed every water rights settlement in the Colorado River Basin and interviewed presidents, water managers, attorneys, and other officials from 20 of the 30 federally recognized basin tribes. This analysis found that Arizona, in negotiating with those water settlements, is unique for the lengths it goes to extract concessions that could delay tribes' access to more reliable sources of water and limit their economic development. The federal government has rebuked Arizona's approach, and the architects of the state's process acknowledge it takes too long. Well, maybe rectify the situation. You're destroying lives. And for what? For what? What are you wanting that you're unwilling to give them water? I mean, these people are not fucking wealthy. The Navajo Nation has negotiated with all 3 states where it has land, Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah, and has completed water settlements with 2 of them. We're partners in those states, New Mexico and Utah, said Jason John, the director of the Navajo Nation Department of Water Resources. But when it comes to Arizona, it seems like we have different agendas. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled in 1908 that tribes with reservations have a right to water, and most should have priority in times of shortages. But to quantify the amount and actually get that water, they must either go to court or negotiate with the state where their lands are located, the federal government, and competing water users. If a tribe successfully completes the process, it stands to unlock large quantities of water and millions of dollars for pipelines, canals, and other infrastructure to move that water. But in the drought-stricken Colorado River Basin, whatever river water a tribe wins through the process comes from the state's allocation. The basin includes 7 states, 2 countries, and 30 federally recognized tribes between Wyoming and Mexico. As a result, states use these negotiations to defend their share of a scarce resource. The state perceives any strengthening of tribal sovereignty within the state boundaries as a threat to their own jurisdiction and governing authority. Said Toribio Fodder, manager of the University of Arizona's Indigenous Governance Program and a citizen of the Teos Pueblo. While the process can be contentious anywhere, The large number of tribes in Arizona amplifies tensions. There are 22 federally recognized tribes in the state, and 10 of them have some yet unsettled claims to water. What is the fucking hold up, Arizona? The state, through its water department, courts, and elected officials, has repeatedly used the negotiation process to try to force tribes to accept concessions unrelated to water, including a recent attempt to make the state's approval or renewal of casino licenses contingent on water deals. In these negotiations, which often happen in secret, tribes also must agree to a state policy that precludes them from easily expanding their reservations. And hanging over the talks, should they fall, in an even worse opinion, or even worse option, navigating the state's court system, where tribes have been mired in some of the longest running cases in that country. Arizona creates additional hurdles and settling tribes' claims that don't exist in other states, said Annie Castle, the former Assistant Secretary of Water and Science in the U.S. Department of the Interior. The tribes haven't been able to get a settlement in some cases because Arizona would impose conditions that they find completely unacceptable, she said. This is just to run basic life. Yet another reason why I would never want to live in Arizona. Just the assholery of the state. You know, not only have these tribes been displaced because of manifest destiny and westward expansion, their attempts at treaties constantly trampled on. You know, there'd be a treaty signed, often not by everybody who runs a tribe, but it just people forced to say, okay, now we have a treaty. Even those treaties would be ignored at times. That's why I kind of laughed when the U.S. found out the state of Oklahoma, about half of it still belongs to native tribes because of signed treaties that turn out to still be active. And I thought, yeah, that gives you a little taste of your own medicine. Anyway, it's not like they're wanting you to drain your entire water supply. They're just asking to have part of it. Anyway, let's end this off with an interesting note. 1,626 books were banned in America in 2022. I reviewed all of them. Let's get a bigger look at this map. Yeah, they show a number of different books, and it gives us a link to yarn.joinstatecraft.com/books, so we can interact with the little map here. It shows you the books, the name of each books, and these were those banned from 2021 to 2022, just in a year. Yeah. Over 1,600 books banned. I mean, what are we living in? Nazi Germany? Most of them turn out, I think it was like over 50% were banned because they included LGBTQ themes and defense of racial history and stuff like that, or defense of other races in America's time. Yeah, the nonprofit PEN America and the American Library Association keep a catalog of books that were banned in the United States up to the 2021-2022 academic year. In this one academic year alone, 1,600 plus books were irregularly banned from 138 school districts across America. 3.8 million students have lost access to information in varying degrees. As a result, we've expanded the catalog of banned books by scraping open source data from publishers to give us the clearest possible look at common features of these 1,626 books. Let's see. %, activism and social justice. 24%, LGBTQ plus specific. 19%, race and ethnicity. And then there's a few notable, historic, and influential women in the books. Only 1.6% were given a 17 plus maturity rating. 1.6%. Think about that bullshit. I mean, right there's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 26 books. Only 26 of them. Because they were given a 17 plus maturity rating. The rest of them had academic information that could be used. This isn't about, trying to protect children. It's about trying to ban things you disagree with. That's what's going on. And that's what pisses me off. This is information we could use to make a better society, but nah. Fuck that. Why do that when we can just hide the stuff we don't like? it is one thing that really irritates me. It is book banning. That is, willingly to making yourself and your following generations dumber because you don't like the content, you don't like the truth. And so fuckers like you who ban books, who want books banned that actually have viable academic content, you are what's wrong with America. Anyway, I think I'll go ahead and end this episode here. I need to chill because I am worked up. Like I said, that just pisses me off to no end. As always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. People try to tell you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources, and I will be putting these sources in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.